Hello, everyone. This is Ship or Not to Ship Fandoms Are Us, and I am Galaxian Knight, and this is
Dole Whip Drea, and today we are going to be talking about Friends.
Now, I know I already did, the episode. That was my first episode, but it was 15 minutes, so we want to explore a little more. Giving you a heads up that this might be a longer podcast because there's a lot to cover, especially when Andrea and I are talking between each other about Friends. I think we're both very passionate about this specific series.
Well, we've also done a lot of binging together watching this show.
A ridiculous amount of binging.
So much.
So to the point where I think I've seen all the seasons at least about in the double digits multiple times.
Fair. That's
fair. I could safely say I just start over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Harry Potter. It's easy to just go back and just do everything over again, and you catch more things.
Well, that I don't agree. I don't think I do, which is blasphemy. I don't do Harry Potter as much as I watch Friends. That's saying something.
Huh. Well, I mean, it's easier to just turn it on, too. That's the other thing. You can have it in the background. I find it kind of comforting.
Oh, yeah, it's my white noise.
Yeah.
It's literally my white noise. Whenever I'm, doing laundry or doing the dishes, I put on Friends.
And then you know when something really good is coming up, so you just stop what you're doing for a second, and you're like, oh my gosh, this bit's about to happen.
And that's how the laundry never gets done.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's true.
I mean, I think the episode where I think Chandler says, I love you for the first time is the one where I stopped.
Where you stopped recently? Or where you just stop when you're doing laundry?
I stopped doing laundry.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Thanksgiving episode, I believe.
Yes. Well, I always stop when Monica comes out with the turkey on her head and does the little turkey dance. That's one of my favorites. Classic GIF.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, also, Ross's My Sandwich. That makes me stop immediately.
Really?
Yes. I like the little vignette where it's just, he starts screaming about his sandwich, and his voice echoes throughout all of New York, and a bunch of pigeons fly out of Central Park.
Well, it just shows how Ross has such anger issues. I'm sorry.
Well, he does, and he desperately needs help. He should have seen a psychiatrist.
I think everyone in that show.
Yeah, they did, but I would say Ross needed it. Well, okay, Ross and Chandler needed it more than anybody else on the show.
No, I think Monica did too, in many ways.
Well, yeah, she has a lot of hang-ups with her parents, for example. Her baggage with Richard was pretty heavy.
Oh, yeah, and then going back and forth between people reiterating, oh, yeah, you used to be fat.
Oh, yes.
And, okay, a lot of this wouldn't fly nowadays.
Yeah.
Everyone talks about, oh, they should revamp Friends. They would have to revamp Friends and then make it PC if they're going to do it, because of its time. Even then, it was kind of I'm laughing at this. Why am I laughing at this? Some of this is not really that funny as more borderline offensive.
Well, yeah, but I find that is kind of true with most comedies. I've tried to rewatch The Office.
No, I don't watch The Office.
There are just jokes that were made, of their time, and you could do it in that moment. At that moment, it was considered socially mostly acceptable to do.
It
and
reeks
they are
of
rampant in everything.
I mean, I could compare it to Family Guy.
Oh, Family Guy is jumping back decades.
I know.
Because literally once season 3 or 4 hit, it was almost like all of the writers had gotten divorced and all
just
hated
women. Yeah,
every joke was anti-woman. It was very interesting, and that's when I was like, you know what? This isn't as funny. It was funny when they targeted different types of groups and different demographics to make the joke, because obviously for these jokes, unfortunately, someone has to be the butt of a joke, right? But when every single episode is just the same, well, it's not fun anymore.
Well, it's especially, that's why I do compare it a little bit to Friends, because when you get someone like I feel like Monica ends up being the butt of every joke sometimes.
Oh, 100%. I think that it's really terrible that once you find out that Monica used to be plus size, every joke is about the fact that she was fat. Yes. And I mean, for a second, they might get distracted by the fact that Rachel had a bigger nose before she had surgery for her deviated septum. Ha, ha, quotation marks. It always goes back to Monica being bigger. And, I mean, the fat suit that Courtney Cox had to wear was ridiculous of itself. But just perpetually over and over in every single joke. And it's like, okay, well, yeah, she's plus size, but look at your flock of seagulls hair. Look at how you're dressing. And obviously, like, the audience laughs at all of these points when all of these reveals happen.
Yes.
But it is always more of a challenge for Monica.
Well, yeah, it's always more, but I feel like the only real person in that group, like, real person, is probably Phoebe.
Oh, yeah.
Hands down, Phoebe's, like, the most down-to-earth person, even though she has her little crazy moments, but...
I mean, she's down to earth, but she's also a space cadet.
She is.
She's an incredible space cadet. I love Phoebe.
Phoebe's not book smart. Phoebe is street smart.
She is.
And
she had to defend herself on the streets.
Well, all of them were well off or had a family to take care of them. Like, if you think about it, Rachel was well off. Monica's family is pretty well off.
Yeah.
Chandler's family is really well off. And Joey was a child star going into actor. He was an actor, so
yeah,
that like they had
very
money.
Big family.
They don't really discuss so much what Phoebe does. She is a artist on the street, and yet girl can afford her own like apartment. She has her own apartment for like a long time.
Yeah, well, she always makes sure she has a roommate.
Yeah, and she's like. I don't explain it. She just does like all the bullshit that goes on with her friends. She tries to make light of it because she's seen the worst part of life.
Yes.
And that's the one thing, like when she discussed that, you know, for a time I was homeless and she beats up Ross.
Yes. Ross gets mugged.
By Phoebe.
Yeah.
Like,
that was one of the wildest things.
But it just makes it seem like, you know, I feel like that Phoebe is kind of that token friend where it's like, this is what some people look at Phoebe and could probably identify more with her for their situation, their own situations. I feel like Phoebe's the one, if anything. Especially with a great single like Smelly Cat.
I love Smelly Cat so much. And I love that Jewel comes on the show and steals the song and uses it to make a lot of money for a jingle. And then they go back and they still do the that music video. Yes. And it's just so ridiculous.
Oh my
With that glammed up blonde. But we need to talk about the ships.
Okay,
that is what the show is supposedly supposed to be about.
As we spend the first, 17 minutes talking about everything else but the show.
Racial and socioeconomics and political things. Yes, so obviously, okay, what ship do you want to talk about first?
The one I hate the most. Ross and Rachel.
Rachel and Ross.
Those R's should not go together. I'm sorry.
Okay, so here's my thing with Rachel and Ross. They start out so strong. They have some really wonderful moments. And, at the beginning, the first couple of seasons of Friends Ross is not off of the deep end. Okay, he's kind of like that everyman that the audience is supposed to identify with, and you do. After the whole disaster with the wedding, where he says Rachel's name instead of Emily's name,
yeah,
the writers kind of did a 180 on Ross's character, and they made him go crazy, and instead of letting him go see a psychiatrist in the show, they just continued the crazy.
No, they let him fester and become this bitter, angry, selfish little asshole.
Like, Ross had been the butt of jokes from the beginning as this geeky guy that just didn't know how to talk to women or engage
and
with
them. Obsessed with Rachel, like, throughout his, like...
But he was sweet before. Like, he had some really endearing moments, and then he just became so narcissistic and obsessive and possessive and just no self-awareness, unfortunately. And there were just... You would not see those redeeming qualities. And it wasn't until the final season that they started to attempt to bring that back. Or like the last two, I'll say, when Ross was starting to realize that he was falling in love again with Rachel or hadn't actually gotten over her. When he started talking with Phoebe about it because she was calling him out on it.
Yeah.
But he... And it was weird because they were kind of trying to, like, bring it back around, but they still left, like, these lingering things that just... It's like, oh, we're going to have Ross do this crazy thing where he freaks out and it'll be a great gag, it'll be a joke. But they sacrificed his character for the bizarre comedy.
Well, yeah. And anytime Rachel was with someone...
Oh, God, he lost his mind.
It didn't matter who it was. And it was like, dude, you're dating people. You're okay with... She's like, like, great. Okay, we're moved on.
And he's never moved on. I mean, just from the beginning, she starts working. She finally gets a job that she really likes. Something in a field that makes her really...
She gets
really
to go
happy.
to Paris and live in Paris and dream job. And what does the little shite do? He decides he's going to ruin it by chasing after her, leaving a message, making her confused. And, Ross cannot be redeemed in the last 2 episodes. I'm sorry, writers. You can't do that. That doesn't make sense. You don't do that. It's just it might as well be introducing a new character. Let's not go into that.
Oh, no. I mean, they waited too long and too late. And Ross then, as a result, waits too long and too late to tell her how he feels. And this is the most irritating thing. The last couple of seasons, Rachel would have been on board with getting back with him. But he waits. And he keeps second-guessing himself, and he keeps talking himself back. And I mean, she actually tries to have conversations with him about it.
Yeah, and he can't have a conversation like an adult.
And it's just, it's wild to me. Because
it's painful.
I mean, 10 plus years where they're on again, off again, this whole thing between them, and he can't tell her how he feels?
No, because...
It's just really stupid. Like, I'm sorry, you have a baby with this person. A really cute baby. I love Emma. And now she's like, whatever that baby is, she's like a full-grown adult at this point. Doesn't that make you feel old? It makes me feel old.
Well, Jennifer Aniston just turned 50. And what does 50 look on? It's just...
I mean, she looks beautiful.
I mean,
I love
same
her
with
hair.
J-Lo. God, I hate those people. I hope I look like that.
It's the money that you can spend on products and services. That is all I'm going to say.
You know what? I hope I look that good just naturally. I doubt it. But, because I'm going to have the droopiness. Okay.
Keep putting vitamin E on your face and pray.
I do, and I exfoliate like nobody's business. And I stopped wearing concealer. I stopped wearing foundation. But getting off topic here.
Yeah.
So yeah, Ross is an absolute tool. actually, when I watched the first season for the first time, I remember I felt like he had no redeeming qualities for me.
Really?
I felt he was too much of... At first, I thought he was too much of a pushover.
Well, yeah,
and
he's definitely a pushover.
And had no backbone. And I felt like, And you know what? I should have seen it coming. It's like, I just felt like he was this sad guy that was depressed that his ex ended up falling in love with a woman. And
But you know what? The friends don't make it any easier on Ross either, because they always make jokes about how much of a nerd he is, even though, honestly, I think it's cool that he studies dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And there was an episode that I was watching to refresh my memory on certain things, and he spots Monica Money because she's out of a job, and she notices that there are dinosaurs on his checks.
Yes.
And I'm like, that's a really cute detail. And I mean, if I had seen that, like if I had a brother and I saw that he had dinosaur checks, I'd be like, that's pretty rad, bro.
Well,
and instead they make fun of him for it.
Well,
left
he
and
does.
right.
He does. He's a professor of archaeology.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's cool. He just doesn't match up to, like, personality-wise. I think he's a flawed character, but at the same time, we watch him like we watch a oncoming train about to hit a car. Honestly, the train
You
wreck...
just want to see the everything go down in flames.
And that's why we like Friends. That's really why we like Friends. If you really...
It's true. Like, all of their problems are actually caused by themselves or their friends.
Yeah.
Every single episode plays essentially with those parameters.
They have no... I believe every single character has no sense of self-preservation. They always get into so much... The weirdest shit.
Really the weirdest shit.
That you will... How did it come to this? Well, like, what was it?
Like when Joey and Chandler leave Ben on a bus.
Oh, yes.
Did they get distracted by a pretty woman or something? I can't even remember. But it's like, really? You left a baby on a bus? This would not happen in real life.
Well, you look at it like a lot of shows that came after it. Like, if you look at 2.5 Men. Mm-hmm. If you've ever watched 2.5 Men.
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Men.
They're trying to follow that similar. They're two guys trying to raise this kid, and they follow similar, like, I guess. And this is the thing about Friends was of its time the greatest show ever.
Yes.
And the reason why is because it set the tone for all sitcoms that came after it.
Yeah.
So did one of my favorites before that would be the Golden Girls.
Yes.
It set the feminist movement of its time. And that was, and then all of a sudden you saw all these girl shows coming up. Well, Friends was that. It set the tone of, like, there's just these normal people. Yeah, they all have jobs. We don't know what half of them does. I think, Chandler does advertisement. Oh, eventually does advertisement.
And that's also a running joke in the show until he
What
switches
does Chandler do?
Even Monica, after Chandler and she start to date, even Monica doesn't know what he does, which is really unfortunate. It was something with numbers.
I thought he was like a business analyst, someone that actually does consulting in business.
I think you're right.
Like something like that?
Yeah, something along those lines. I remember they have him say it like once in the show, and there's like 5 or 6 words for his title, and basically everyone just sits there like with their eyes glazed over, and it's like, okay, it's not just me. I feel so much better now.
But there's these people with, I guess you could call it different walks of life. Okay, so that's what they are.
They really are. It is interesting that none of them are in the same fields. They all have like their own unique things,
and
but
yet
they
they're
are
friends.
Connected through all of these different instances and connections. You've got Ross and Chandler because they met in school,
college,
and they became best friends.
Monica and Rachel were best friends throughout high school, probably when they were kids.
Yeah.
So, and then Phoebe just kind of, how does Phoebe meet them?
Phoebe and Monica were sharing the same apartment.
That's right. And it's all about these people just cohabitating and trying to, like, we have Rachel moves in with Ross when, they're dating, when they're together, and how they cohabitate. And then you have my favorite, Rachel and Joey moving in together.
They were so cute.
I love when they just start throwing, like, food. I dropped some food on the floor. It's like, yeah.
And then, like, is it a whole pizza or, like, a whole, like, plate of spaghetti that ends up on the floor?
I believe it's a plate of spaghetti.
Yeah.
I believe it's a plate of spaghetti. And
it was a beautiful moment.
But then you get, like, you get Chandler and Joey, how they cohabitated, and then you have Monica and Rachel, and then adding Chandler into that dynamic when they start dating and how they convince Rachel to move out, and then Phoebe moves in, and then Rachel moves out of Joey's.
And then the great apartment switch
yes.
after the quiz show.
Oh, I felt so bad for the girls.
Oh, that's the worst thing. And then at the end, Monica trying to figure out what one of the switches does.
Yes.
And she ends up turning on and off the television in another apartment.
Yes. Yes.
That's just one of the most wild things.
But getting back to it.
Yeah, we gotta stay on focus. But Rachel, she's not perfect.
And she's a flawed character, and that's what makes it perfect.
But she does actually have a very solid character arc, I feel, throughout the show, which is why you don't blame her for anything when the show finishes and you feel like Ross doesn't deserve her.
Yeah, because she goes through the rich girl, I had everything handed to me, to I am broke as hell and I have to work my way up. So she works at the cafe. She works everywhere she can get a job. She really works her way up through her dreams and finding something that she really loves and she's really passionate about. Which I believe she did not go to college. Or she did, but she didn't.
Yeah, actually, I don't know if she went to college or not. I can't remember now.
I don't remember. I don't think she did.
She was gonna marry Barry the dentist, and she was going to be set. And then she realizes
doesn't want that.
That she doesn't want. Maybe she, instead of being a purse, she wants to be a shoe.
Yes.
Yes. She has this very, very incredible conversation with her dad over the phone, over, like, the first instance of, like, a cellular phone that's, like, this giant thing with a big antenna coming out.
And can we just talk about some of the cameos that went through?
Oh, my gosh.
Like her husband at the time, Brad Pitt, who absolutely was supposed to hate her. That was hilarious. And then Reese Witherspoon played one of her sisters.
Her sister, who was a brat.
Yeah.
Like, you think that Rachel, when you first start introduced to her, oh man, she's a little girl that's been spoiled. Then you meet Reese Witherspoon's character.
And I'm like, Rachel's an angel.
Yeah. Rachel was so good. And what evil machinations does this girl have?
Yeah. And I love how all of them, when they have their problems, actually go to Phoebe.
This is true. Every single time. It's usually Phoebe sitting, on the couch, and one of them pops in and starts, like, venting to her.
The wedding dress. All of them are wearing a wedding dress.
Oh, I love that episode. We're gonna have to talk about, like, the friendships too, because
I ship those more. Monica and Rachel's friendship, I ship so hardcore.
I ship them so much too. I ship Chandler and Joey really hard. Honestly, I ship them all together in their own individual ways.
It's because I as myself, yes.
Yeah. I as myself,
double
positive.
Me. At least it's not a negative and a positive. At least it's not an oxymoron. You're not moron. Oh, you don't get that reference, do you?
No, I don't.
It's from Oscar, the movie. It's Sylvester Stallone's, one of his comedies when he was younger.
Oh.
You have to actually watch it. It's one of those slapsticks. Tim Curry's in it.
Oh.
it's a very slapstick comedy. Like, if you are into watching, I know, The Odd Couple or like those kind of slapstick comedies that of Neil Simon's time, Oscar's definitely worth it. So,
and speaking of Odd Couple, of course, our lovely man who plays Chandler Bing actually did a more recent version of The Odd Couple,
which wasn't that bad.
I really enjoyed it, actually.
A lot of people were on the fence about it, but I feel like the first few episodes were good.
I've only seen the first season, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I need to see if I can find the other episodes to watch.
Well, The Odd Couple became, like, after the movie came out after the play, it became a TV series. So everyone's like going, oh, when this new one came out, they're like, no, there shouldn't be a continuation of The Odd Couple. It was just like a movie. I'm like, no.
I hope Matthew Perry is okay. He's gone through a lot.
He's fine now.
Yeah, I know, but sometimes he deals with depression a little bit. He has his own, like, mental health issues that he struggles with.
Yeah.
That gets him in and out, but...
Who doesn't?
Anyhow, I love you, Matthew Perry. You are so funny, and I can, like, they make Chandler the butt of a lot of jokes that he's not as attractive as so-and-so, and I'm like, I think Chandler is fine. Like, that is my type right there.
I know.
Yeah, I know you know.
But I was talking about, like, earlier, I identify with Monica.
Yes.
I have some, I want to say, lovable quirks about me.
Controlling.
I tend to, so I direct. I'm also a technical director at Bishop Alameda High School. Yeah, that was a shameless, like, little
That was a
plug.
very shameless plug.
Shameless plug. So, shut up. So, I deal with a lot of teenagers, so I have to be very on point and very strict and very, controlling. I have to be sitting here like, nope, you didn't finish your homework, go. You have to finish these lighting cues, come on.
And she definitely has a Monica closet, I can guarantee you. The closet where you put things, where you don't know where else they're going to go, and it's actually very messy and is the one unorganized place that exists in the home.
This is my closet.
I know. I'm looking at it right now.
There's barely anything in it.
I know.
My desk is in the closet, as well as our recording studio.
I'm staring at it. If Stephanie had her way, this would be hidden, which I would understand.
Well,
but I hold no judgment.
I'm still having to remodel, so I want to put soundproof stuff on here and make it look legit, because we are so legit.
Are we?
In case some of you don't know, Andrea, we do this across the continent, just letting you know. She's in Florida. I'm in California. Literally across the country.
Like, right now, when we're recording, I'm visiting, so we're together right now, but most of the time, I have to, we Skype or FaceTime at the same moment, and we have to end up overlaying our recording tracks together.
So if some of our tracks, some of our podcasts seem a little off-tuned sometimes, I try to tweak it as much as possible. And that's why Chamber of Secrets never came out. I got a corrupt file. Thank you, Mark Donica.
Oh.
I sent it. I'm like, when am I opening? No, don't open that. Don't open that. So no, it was fine.
Corrupt file?
It wouldn't open. That's all. It was just, I probably needed him to resend it. And then, but he doesn't have it anymore, so.
Don't yell at my husband.
I'm not yelling. I'm speaking very sternly.
Yeah.
I had a corrupt file.
Aggressively.
Yeah, so, I have anger issues, too. Me and Chandler do have something in common. Okay, no, Ross. Chandler has anger issues. Oh, they all...
Chandler, okay. So when I was listening to your first recording, another reason why we're doing this second recording, literally when Stephanie did the first recording, I heard it, and I was like, oh, this sounds like a really cool podcast. I want to be a part of it. I messaged her, and immediately like, I thought I was going to be, like, a guest host or something. Nah, she went straight to, no, you're just going to be my co-host all the time. I'm like, well, if I'm going to be your co-host all the time, then we need to redo the Friends episode so that people aren't confused when they suddenly hear me and I'm talking for literally every other episode with you.
Which I don't think they have been. This has been a long time coming for the Friends.
Yeah.
If anything, we probably should have started with Friends, but I think people are now accepting that I just inputted her in. I said, this is mine. She's mine. Sorry, Mark. We have a custody battle with Andrea.
She is very possessive of me. Another thing that she and Monica have in common, I would say that I'm kind of a splice between Rachel and Phoebe. I'm kind of a splice between the two of them. And interestingly enough, I've gotten a lot from my high school, my senior photo. Everyone was telling me that I looked like Phoebe from Friends. That I looked like Lisa Kudrow.
Except you're short.
Yeah, I'm not tall.
She's tall. I'm like, well, yes. Facially, God, I can't talk right now.
I mean, that makes sense. With my
with
facial
your features,
structure.
with your features,
mm-hmm.
Yes, you would look similar to her when you were in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I have no one I can compare my face to.
And hopefully that will change.
Someone used to joke around, it's like, you're the darker version of Lady Gaga. And I'm looking at them like, from one Stephanie to another.
Yeah, no, but you got really excited about that. Like, you started buying, like, you bought a pair of sunglasses.
Yes.
And you said, these are my Lady Gaga glasses.
They were my Lady Gaga glasses because they were literally like these ginormous glasses that made my nose. Because she has a very pronounced nose, just like I do.
Yes.
She has a wider bridge, so our nose structures are very similar. So when I wear glasses, that's where the buck stops. That's what it looks like. Other than that, if I take my glasses off, I don't look like Lady Gaga. But I wore sunglasses and they're like, you have a very Lady Gaga face. I'm like, done. My queen. I would love to look like her. I absolutely love Lady Gaga.
She's rad.
She is so hot.
She is.
Her music is so hot. I don't understand. Like, if you ever see, oh, that's another one. I don't know if you've watched any American Horror Story.
No, because I'm a squeamish little girl. Granted, I did get through all of Game of Thrones.
That's what I'm saying. If you could get through Game of Thrones.
I can't, I tried to do Breaking Bad, and I could only make it through 2 episodes. Once the body, fell through the ceiling, I was like, okay, I think I'm done. I can't handle the acid and knowing that this body has been, eating itself from all of the acid. This is
that's
really
sexy.
Aggressive.
I mean, so CSI would not be for you.
Yeah, no.
No, there's an episode where literally the guy's been in the bathtub dead for a good, I think, month, and he's just a pile of goo.
Ugh. Yeah, Mark wouldn't let me watch House.
No, you wouldn't.
I believe that. And I've passed by the television when my father has been watching Dexter, and I'm like,
no, that's another one.
Definitely not.
That's another one you wouldn't be able to watch as Dexter.
It's too bad. I always wish that there would be, an option where somebody would go through episodes for television series, and for people that are really squeamish, just, cut to black, and then just maybe say on the screen what's happening, so that I'm not completely clueless, but that I could watch it without feeling like I'm going to faint.
Well, maybe we could just do that, for the next podcast, that if I decide I want to do one for Dexter or House or anything like that, I'll just be the one doing the talking and you commenting, and asking questions.
So, you describe the episode to me? Or...
I'll pick certain episodes and kind of give you a description of them.
Now, that would be wild.
I know.
You should also, describe it in, the most ridiculous way and the most ambiguous way. so that I try to, like, figure out what's going on.
Next time on House.
Kind of like a guessing game.
Oh my gosh.
We are veering off track. We need to get back on track, girl. Okay, so...
This is what happens when we don't have a plan.
So, we've got a loose plan. Like, we're talking about friends. It's okay. It's cool.
If anyone doesn't know this, we get off topic, like...
I mean, this is what podcasts are for, right? If you wanted a summary of whatever, you would just go on to Google. You wouldn't be listening.
There's your
to
synopsis. Wikipedia is not your friend.
Monica. Monica is very controlling, but she is also an amazing cook, so her type A personality really helps her there, because when you're cooking, measurements, very specific directions are key. She can get aggressive. She can be a little physically abusive with her loved ones. She's beaten up on Ross a couple of times since they were kids.
I'm feeling ganged up on. This is pretty much.
You have never hurt me.
No, I would never hurt you.
No.
I also.
We're not gonna go there.
I'm also an amazing cook, by the way.
She is, actually. She made the most delicious vegan enchilada soup the other day. Oh my gosh, it was incredible. But Monica is very goal-oriented.
Yes.
She is the one that owns, of course, the most famous apartment in all of Friends. That's where most of the action does take place, where we see our group of people, other than Central Perk.
Yes.
And it is inherited from her grandmother. You find out in the finale of the show that the reason why they could afford such a nice apartment was because Grandma had rent control.
Yeah.
Because it was handed down from her grandmother.
So she basically pays nothing.
Yeah. Because
for an apartment that size in New York,
and as nice as it is with the veranda,
you can't afford that.
Nah.
Not on what those guys make, especially at the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. I'm like looking at that, I'm like, that's an apartment in New York. When I was younger and watched the episodes, I didn't get that. I thought like, wow, that's an amazing apartment. That's what I'm going to have when I'm older. And then reality set in.
This is another reason why we were raised with unrealistic expectations about what adulthood was going to be
unrealistic.
Like. And we all thought we were going to have our best friends live across the hall from us.
Oh my god, it reminds me of our friend Steve that says, we're going to build a village. I'm like, I ain't living next to you people, sorry. No, there's no way. But like, you think, we're going to have an amazing apartment, and I remember my first apartment, I went in, I'm like, oh my god, it's bigger than my bedroom. And then I look at my bedroom, like, no. I look at my old childhood bedroom, and I'm like, nope, you're bigger.
Yeah, it is the truth.
I'm just like...
We have to make these concessions to survive.
And even my second apartment, my second apartment was a lot bigger. About 725 square feet, so it was decently sized. But at the same time, when you have a husband and a kid... that 725 square feet goes away really quickly. There's no escape from anything. So, again, thank you, Friends, for my unrealistic views on what my adult life would look like.
I don't know if we ever get a clear idea of how many bedrooms officially are in the apartment, but if I try to visualize it...
It's two. It's two bedroom. It's a 2-bedroom apartment, but they have a huge... Their bathroom is huge.
The bathroom is huge.
The kitchen,
and the living room, the sitting area and entryway with the kitchen is very spacious.
I think it's like it's not a loft, but it's like that industrial look, which is actually, by the way, LA. And where was it filmed?
I thought it was filmed in New York, actually. With the live studio audience. I've watched, they made a documentary when the show wrapped to air, right after. I'm pretty sure it was in New York. Like, they had the live studio audience and everything. As far as I know, it was actually filmed in New York. Back then, it was a little more common to do that with sitcoms.
No, shot in California.
Really? Okay.
Greenwich Village building, located in the Grove in Bedford, and Monica's apartment building. Yeah, no, it was, were filmed, and which scenes were filmed in New York. So some things, like, maybe outside were filmed in New York, but
of course.
Monica's apartment and everything was filmed in LA, and that makes sense because you have an industrial, not LA, but, like, in California.
Yeah.
Because you have that industrial look. That's why I felt like, it wasn't filmed in New York, because that's not New York. Like, that look of that kind of an apartment, and granted it was in a studio, but if you look at even Joey's apartment, that's still too big.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like, and then don't get me started with Ross's apartment, and Ross's apartment
was so nice.
Yes. I'm, like, looking at, and Phoebe's, and you're looking at these apartments, and you're, like, going, oh, okay, between New York, living in a shoebox.
Everyone being able to afford, like, a 2-bedroom apartment.
Yeah.
Seemingly.
Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
They're kind of stacked on top of each other.
And, truthfully, like, I think about Ross, for example, and they always... It seems from the beginning of the show like he seems to be making a decent amount of money. But he's a teacher.
Yeah.
He really shouldn't be as well off as he is. Well, I mean, granted, he does also work for the museum.
Yeah, he's a professor of archaeology, and he also does digs and stuff like that, and stuff.
Yeah.
And he's written a book.
That's true.
See,
so maybe he's getting residuals.
And then he got tenure.
That's
so
true.
On top of that, so yeah, he is actually a glorified, and remember he did talks at the archaeological convention. He's a glorified archaeology, and everyone's like going, in his archaeology world, he's glorified. He's actually a superstar.
Yeah.
In the world of friends with his friends,
he's
the bottom barrel.
Joke.
He's the bottom barrel.
I do love how his and Rachel's first date is at the museum, and he, like, turns on the planetarium for her.
Yes.
And then they get hooked up in the caveman area.
Yes.
And then get caught by a bunch of kids later on.
Yeah, I remember that episode.
Yeah, that was pretty glorious.
Oh, what's a great episode is when the bathtub, when Monica and Chandler are trying not to get caught.
Yes, and then Chandler orders, like, fried chicken and drinks, and then, like, orders for Monica because she's like, I'm hungry. Chicken? I want some chicken. And then he orders her a Coke, and then she clearly grabs something while she's underneath, and Chandler yelps and goes, Diet Coke.
Yes. That's the worst part, is, like, Monica has always liked Chandler.
Yes, and you know what? Okay, so something that I've wanted to say about Monica and Chandler, and they're my favorite relationship on the show. They've been, even though, like, their first meeting that you find out was not good. It
was horrible.
And then the second meeting becomes a disaster because Chandler loses a toe.
Yes.
That cannot be reattached to his foot. Because a carrot gets grabbed instead of his toe and brought to the hospital.
Which is a great story to tell their children later on.
Yeah. But when they become friends, like, they are very close.
Yeah, and that's what makes them... Like, if they got together when they were younger, it would have totally ruined both themselves. They had to grow up.
They needed to mature, but they would always go to each other when they were upset about something.
Yeah.
Like, there was this wonderful flashback episode where Monica is... And this is before she and Chandler had actually gotten together on the show, but it was still a flashback.
Mm-hmm.
And Monica is kind of lamenting. She's like, I don't think I'm ever going to find the right person. And she's kind of, like, lounging in a towel, like she's not dressed or anything. Yes. Chandler isn't sexually harassing her or anything, and he's just there to comfort her and give her a hug. And I think that that's really sweet. Like, they've always had each other's backs after that whole initial disaster. When
Yes.
they became friends, they went, like, full on. And then you look at the other friendships on the show, and a lot of shit goes down between different people. But Monica and Chandler seem to have the healthiest friendship out of everyone.
Well, yes, and that's why their relationship is a lot healthier than most.
Yes.
Even though they've got their hang-ups. Like,
yeah.
I swear. But Monica likes to seem like she is the friend of reason. But yeah, it all goes back down to Phoebe. Like, hands down. And everyone's like going, oh, they just wanted to give Phoebe a guy when they had Paul Rudd. When they had Paul Rudd come. I actually
love him.
Everyone was so against him when he came on the show, and I actually made me happy that Phoebe got her happily ever after.
Yes.
Because if anyone deserves it, it's Phoebe. And the best thing she ever said was part of her vows. She's like saying, "You're my family now." I went, "Thank you."
Can I also say, her wedding dress was my favorite.
Oh, yes.
Out of everyone's on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Her corset, oh my gosh, 90s, like, queen.
But she looks so pretty and delicate, and I like,
and
can someone give me a
snow
jacket? I'm freaking freezing. Yeah, I love that. That's my favorite.
Yeah, and that was the thing. They get snowed in, so they can't even get to their venue.
Yeah.
So instead, they just have it just outside of the apartment complex.
But it was still beautiful and personable, and I was so happy for Phoebe.
Yes.
Hands down, I was happy for Phoebe. Now, there's another ship, and that would be Rachel and Joey. Now, throughout the series, Joey would always joke around with Monica, joke around with Phoebe. Although Phoebe, he didn't do it as much. It was more of a sister.
Well, Phoebe had already welcomed it. They had, there's also, like, the talk of agreements, like, oh, if we're this old and we're not married, we're gonna get married. The marriage pact.
Yes. But Rachel and Joey, I felt like they were slightly kindred spirits in many ways. But I agreed that it wasn't going to work out, but it was endearing and sweet as well.
It was very sweet.
And you feel bad for Joey. Like, throughout the whole, his whole debacle with whether he likes Rachel or not, like that, and if he wants to ruin his friendship with Ross.
Yeah.
And that's what makes Joey such a good friend. Okay, hands down, he thinks about Ross's feelings first, and Rachel's feelings about it.
And I think it's really sweet that he realizes he's falling in love with her, like, during her pregnancy and everything. He wants to, like, protect her. He wants to make sure everything's good for her. He really goes out of his way to get things set up for the baby and the apartment. Like, he really goes out of his way to take care of her.
Yeah, and Rachel, of course, would start having feelings with Joey, who's been kind of her support system through this. Because after Ross threw a hissy fit,
because he is so insecure,
and literally, couldn't handle her being in, well, she couldn't handle being in the apartment anymore with him.
Well, yeah.
And so, living with Joey, I felt balanced it out. Now, of course, Ross kept putting his foot in every second. Like, I'm pretty sure he wasn't okay with her. I know there's a few episodes that he wasn't okay with her living even with Joey.
Yeah.
And then...
But it wasn't his business to make that decision. And
no, it wasn't. That. And so, yeah, eventually he got over it. But I just felt really bad for Joey throughout that last few seasons.
Yeah.
Like, I was actually rooting for him. As much as I knew that him and Rachel were not canon, that they weren't going to be the outcome. Like, because you set up this extreme, annoying back and forth between two characters. And in the 90s, the people you expect to end up with each other end up with each other. Yeah. That's just how 90s film and television works.
And sometimes that is satisfying. Sometimes you want a shake-up. I will say there's been a lot of sitcoms that have, since Friends, tried to do a shake-up, and it isn't necessarily successful.
How I Met Your Mother.
How I Met Your Mother.
Everyone loves that show, and I
that 70s show.
Oh, that was bad. No, nothing's wrong with that 70s show. I grew up with it. I enjoyed watching a few episodes of it. But, again, you were right. Everything tried to follow the Friends norm and say, well, we're going to do something different. We're going to kind of tweak it a little bit. But everything ended up the way you expect it. And How I Met Your Mother, even though he ended up being married, spoiler alert, married to the same, woman, had kids with her, she passed away, and he ends up with his ex-girlfriend from a long time ago. So, at the end of the season, he's asking permission to the children, can I marry
The whole point of How I Met Your Mother was so that Ted could get over Robin. That was the whole point of the show.
And he never did. And so, it was kind of like...
And then you have all this growth with Barney and Robin, and then you just throw it all away in the last episode.
And that's just because writers don't want to take that leap. They want...
I guess we're going to need to talk about these on separate occasions.
I know.
We need to move past it.
But the idea is Friends kind of influenced...
Friends influenced every single thing.
That storytelling. That formula.
Yeah.
It influenced that formula of what sitcoms are supposed to be. And really the only couple that you could get behind, yes, were Monica and Chandler. Everyone else was like, why are they even together? Why are they even communicating with each other? They obviously are people that don't like each other. I mean, Rachel and Ross, there was so much animosity sometimes that you're like, they're supposed to be friends, and that's the whole point of the show, friends. Especially when Brad Pitt's character comes on and him and Ross start heckling Rachel a little bit before she knows they're heckling her, by the way. They're like talking behind her back. Yeah. And that's just because of revenge from when she was a teenager.
And it's petty and really off-putting. And this goes back to why we can't, they can't get away with this kind of stuff today. Because people would throw a fit. Because women are finally empowered to actually point out some of the bullshit, finally.
Yes, and I'm sorry, in Friends with the guys, there's plenty of bullshit. I mean... Joey's character would not fly today.
No.
He was a bit of a womanizer.
A bit?
I was being nice.
I will say, however, when Joey would... Even though Joey was ridiculously flirtatious and would hit on literally anything that moved...
And have sex with...
And it would have sex with anything that moved. When he would take a girl out, he would really try to pamper them.
Except when they tried to take his food.
Except when he tried to take his food. And you know what? Joey doesn't share food.
Joey doesn't share food! Like, I use that line. I use that line all the time. I'm like going...
And we identify with that.
Yes.
And you can't... Like when you order dessert... and someone tries to take your dessert from you and you have not agreed verbally that you are going to share it, you cannot do that. You cannot do that. So, Joey was in the right.
It was French fries, I believe.
I mean, fries are sacrilegious as well.
Fries are free game. If you note to self, you're on a date, you order fries, that it becomes communal fries. Even though I don't want to share my fries, that's just like common sense. Like, that's like, fries becomes in fast food like what the bread is at the table at restaurants.
Well, then it should be fries ordered for the table.
Yeah. But, when you see someone have fries, it's like, and they're not eating it fast enough. You're gonna
It's
sit
one
there.
thing when I eat it with you.
Well, yeah.
Okay, look. So, if you're already, like, in a very close relationship with somebody, your food is shared.
If it's your
but
first date.
If it's a first date, that's kind of presumptuous.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm going to say. So I feel that Joey is justified feeling possessive about his food. And here's the other thing, too. Joey grew up with a ridiculous amount of sisters.
Yes.
Like, he was the one son. I don't remember. Doesn't he have, like, 8 sisters? I think
something like that,
I think that's the number. Obviously, he needed to fight for his food. He had to fight for his food growing up, because that's a lot. Even if, like, everything was made to really, like, fill the family, when you got that many siblings, you gotta fight for it.
Yeah, and to be fair, the women know what they're getting into when they're dating Joey. They're
100%.
They're not sitting there thinking, like, I'm gonna get a second or third date, maybe a second one. But, it's just that some of the things he does can be borderline...
Well, he's also...
sexual harassment.
But he's also not the sharpest knife in the drawer.
No, but, again...
But that's okay.
We can't excuse ignorance with... Just sorry, I can't. But... I have to rewatch the episodes over and over again, and every time I do, I always find something, like, cringe-worthy.
Oh, sure.
Like, I'm like, oh, Joey, no. Joey, no. And I wish they had done, like, an episode regarding more serious, because, again, Friends was its own formula, but a lot of the sitcoms of the 90s started, visiting very, very dramatic storylines, even if it was a comedy. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Yeah.
When that whole monologue that Will Smith does was, why doesn't my dad want me? When his dad comes into his life again just to disappoint and abandon him again. I mean, that's where I think it differs with the sitcoms. That what makes, Friends would have been more poignant for me if it had a little bit of those moments. And I feel like sometimes it did, especially with Chandler. And maybe a little bit of Monica, but they overlapped it with so much humor.
Yeah. What comes to mind, at least with Chandler, so Chandler says a lot of what would be considered, and I mean, it was offensive then. It's just, it wouldn't even fly on air today.
No.
Anything regarding the trans community.
Well, he had a hang-up because his father was trans. And the thing, too, is his parents went through a very messy divorce, and he experienced things that, for him, traumatized him as a very small child. Like, he was 5 or 6. Yes.
When he sees his father...
having an affair with a pool boy kind of guy.
Yes. And his mother writes romance novels.
Yes.
And really dresses up to parade her assets in public, and even hooks up with one of his friends at Central Perk. Chandler goes through all of these things, and nobody asks him or checks in with him on how he's doing. And Chandler very clearly needed to go to a family therapist from a very early age. And so he has all of these complex issues that are, as a result, completely unresolved. And we finally get to see a little bit of a step forward when Chandler and Monica are getting married.
Yeah.
And Monica pushes for Chandler to invite his father, that has become his mother, to their wedding by going to his trans mother's
club. It's
Yeah.
where she performs at. But the problem is again, the show overlays it with so much humor that some of those moments, that moment where he sees his father, now mother, again at her club, there's a few minutes of that moment, and then it's gone with humor again.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. Like, I felt like they didn't give enough to those moments, enough to those different issues that each character had. Even the only time when Rachel and Ross get into that really bad argument on the last season, before he grabs her and kisses her, and then they make love right before the next season, the final. I feel like there's a great moment there, and then it jumps to the next morning, and they make a little bit of jokes about it. It's very instantaneous.
Yeah, and that's partially a problem with writing for television, I think. It's like, well, how long can we stretch this thing out? Oh, well, we're just going to have Ross revert to the same thing over and over again, which just makes you want to drive your head into a nail. But
the ending, when they're like going, we're not going to mess up again, we're going to talk things through. No more misunderstandings, no more miscommunications, and then no more fighting unless we're on a break. Why the fuck did you say that, Ross?
Yes.
Sorry, pardon my French, but
but it's
seriously,
it's really irritating.
And I'm like
there's just let the moment play.
And I'm like, writers, you really did that? You really? And that's the only thing that irks me about Friends, is there could be some great moments. Another one is with Phoebe and her sister.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, there's so much ridiculousness with
Phoebe
that.
and her mother.
Yeah, her birth mother.
Yes, I believe her birth mother.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was this whole moment there. This whole time she was talking to her and having this conversation, and then of course she cracks a punchline joke.
Yeah,
and it's just, I know it's to alleviate the tension so they can go to the next scene. It's really what it is, because the next scene is not set up to be overly dramatic. And how do you pull out of that? Well, you set up, in sitcom, you would set up the punchline. That way, the next scene will be a little more lighthearted.
Yeah, but I don't feel that a scene for a comedy really has to end on a joke before going to cut to jump to another scene. You can work your way up to the next joke with the other characters.
In normal shows, episodic shows, nowadays, not the sitcoms. The sitcoms had a very structured. Will and Grace had it. Even the Golden Girls, they would have these dramatic moments, and then they had the punchline come in where B. Arthur would just sarcasm would pop in. I mean, that's how they break up the scene. So the next episode was supposed to be a few days later, and if you had an audience, a studio audience come in, it was a lot easier for them to watch it.
Well, I guess that's another thing we got to take into account too, because they had a live studio audience to react to things. So of course they were going to write things a certain way. Eventually, sitcoms turn to, we don't have to record this in front of a live audience. We can just add in the laugh tracks, and no one's going to know the difference. Which is not as fun.
I mean, I wish I could have gone to a recording. I wish.
Oh, yeah. That would have been so cool.
I would like to do that once in my life. I think the one was Home Improvements. I would have loved to have gone to. Mm-hmm. I've dreamt about going to that because they always viewed the audience, because it was technically a TV show within a TV show.
Yeah.
So I would have loved to have done that. I think it would be something, because sitcoms were a nod to live theater.
Yeah.
Even though they got to do as many takes as possible, it still had that, what do you call it? It still had that, live aspect, having that audience. It was a lot more.
It's a different energy.
Yeah.
And it's something that actors can feed off of, and it really does change the way a scene can play out, too.
Well, you have more of a sincere performance, and especially when you're getting that adrenaline from having a live audience. You are in the moment. You are you know that the next line's coming up, but how you put the inflection on each word really matters, and you know that, and so you want to work towards that instead of like, okay, take. Because, yes, they did takes, but in between the takes, they were still performing for the audience. The bloopers, they're performing.
Yeah.
Sometimes they would mess up on purpose.
Oh, absolutely.
Just for the sake.
If people keep reacting to the line and messing up on it several times, then the other co-actor starts to do an additional thing to keep the joke running.
I mean, if you get a chance to watch every blooper of Friends.
Oh, they're so good.
Is even more funny than watching the show. Like, if you could just, if Friends wasn't taken off of Netflix, if Netflix went ahead and just aired, like, the bloopers.
So it's going to be coming back. It's unfortunately off for
it does a
5
It does a
months,
rotation, yeah.
starting from January. So, like, it'll be coming back in a while. But you can find the bloopers on YouTube if you do a search. And they are incredible. I highly recommend them. And it speaks to how great the cast is.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the tension between Joey and Chandler is hilarious. Anytime they do bloopers, it becomes
so
sexual. Like, I mean, and then I love the interviews that they have. Like, how many times have you made out with this character, and they'll sit there and, like, going, he's like, oh, yeah, and Chandler's like, oh, yeah, I probably made out with Joey. He's like, I probably made out with, what's his name? Oh, my mind just went blank.
Schwimmer?
Yeah, thank you.
Schwimmer.
So many times.
I love that name, by the way. And I love how in one of the intros they actually have David Schwimmer swimming in the fountain. And he's totally smirking about it, too. He, like, does this little snake wiggle thing, and then he pops up and he, like, raises his eyebrows. And I'm like, man, he was having a good night. Like, when I'm feeling my best, that's what I feel like. David Schwimmer swimming.
I don't know if they did that sober.
I would hope not.
Well, I know that the actor who played Chandler didn't do half of his scenes. They did him hungover.
He was having some really rough times. He was in and out of rehab. He had drinking and drug issues.
I mean,
and his weight fluctuated rapidly as well.
I mean, it's, again, 90s.
Everything was unchecked. It was a wild time, and they were the biggest television stars.
I think every threshold for every generation has a wild time. I mean,
sure.
Let's talk about the 60s. Let's leave the 60s alone. Never mind.
Yeah. That'll be for something else. Eventually we'll have to try and do some deep dives on, more vintage things. And
I have a lot. Like, I really want to do Gunsmoke. You've never seen Gunsmoke?
No.
It is amazing. It is the old school Western. And Miss Kitty, if you could ever, watch an episode.
Miss Kitty? Okay.
Oh, she is. And this actress has a voice down to here.
Wonderful. Okay.
Hello, Sarah. I voiced her for an on-the-air show because it wasn't originally a radio show. And then it got put to, I mean, it should be on, I don't know if it's on Netflix. It should be on Netflix. Yeah, it should be.
It'll be on one of my streaming services. I'll find it.
It's fun to watch. It's one of those things that you're just like, the episodes are, I mean, if you were of the age to watch Little House on the Prairie, but have more humor to it, Gunsmoke is for you.
So, jumping back to ships.
Yes.
We can't, all of the characters, they have all of these, guest stars that they'll have, a date or two with.
Yes.
And I do want to talk a little bit more about Monica and Richard. But before that, we need to talk about
relationship.
Janice.
Oh, no.
We have to talk about Janice. Oh, my ears. Oh. And the fact that every guy ends up dating Janice, how weird is that?
She probably does a lot of things that most women don't do.
I guess so. But, how? How does it happen? How is that possible? How is it possible? No, I mean, we know why, because Chandler thinks so poorly of himself that he dates her more than once.
Wasn't one of, like, the guys she was dating, like, couldn't hear or something?
That was the person she ended up marrying and having a baby with.
Yes, that's right. I was like, wait. I said, so, obviously, most of the guys she dates are hard of hearing then. I mean, but anytime she came in as an episode, just the look on Chandler's...
my God.
I could do it. You want me to do it?
Please.
Oh my God! Hands down. I can also do a great Fran Drescher from The Nanny. Oh, Mr. Sheffield.
Oh my God. Ooh, we should talk about The Nanny at some point.
Oh, we're definitely doing The Nanny. I was all about Fine Chef.
I ship them so hard. But yes, we will go back to that. But Janice, okay. She is such a loud personality, and she does, like, I guess she is like the warped version of Fran Drescher. Because she's got the big hair, the big, like, really, like, she's got the loud, intense voice, loud, intense personality, and loud and intense clothes. Like, there was one episode that I was rewatching today, and she has a lime green suit on, a pantsuit, and she drags Joey out because Chandler tells her that Joey can't stand her, and she insists that they have their day of fun, and it takes a whole day, because that is how long it takes for someone to love her. And you see Joey just die inside.
Yes. Again. The green, that was 90s.
That was the 90s with the padded shoulders.
God.
But she just, like, it's great that she keeps coming around. Like, she is a delight in the worst way. And while there are certain jokes that just haven't aged well, I do feel that the Janice jokes do still hold up pretty well.
They do. And Big Bang Theory was Wolowitz's mother.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. And we're going to have to do Big Bang Theory, too.
Yeah.
Because I am binging all of that right now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, hands down, yeah. Janice was Wolowitz's mother. If God rest that actress's soul. But yes, it was, you would hear her, and that was it. Janice, you would hear her from the other room, and you'd be like, Chandler's eyes would go, and those wide eyes would be like, nope.
The fact that when Rachel is supposed to give birth.
Yes.
And Janice is in the same bigger room with them.
Okay, they don't do that anymore, FYI. They don't give, 2-3 people don't give birth at the same time in one big room. That doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. Unless you're at a very, very rinky-dinky hospital, an old school one, I can safely say that doesn't happen. Go ahead.
But at the same time, Janice does have these moments of strong camaraderie because she knows all of the friends so well.
Yes.
And she actually does give Rachel some really solid advice in those episodes.
Yeah.
Which I really love. Shout out to that actress. And, there are some recurring characters that are like, but Janice is that sweet spot of comedy, and some actually rare moments of honesty and beauty. And, I love how outrageous she is.
Oh my god.
Some of the best episodes are with Janice, and thank goodness that none of the friends actually ended up with her.
And then, I guess we could talk about Monica and Richard.
Tom Selleck and his miraculous mustache.
Yes. But
it's so sad because he and Monica get along so well. Like, the age difference is weird. And the fact that Richard and Monica's dad were buddies is weird. But then everything falls apart ultimately because Richard doesn't want to have children. And
Yes.
Monica does.
And I think Richard was Monica's... he wasn't her revenge. Because she honestly had feelings for him.
Yeah.
But Monica had maybe a little bit of daddy issues.
Oh, 100%. Because Ross was always put on a pedestal, and she was always fighting for her parents' attention.
Well, at least her mom extremely. I mean, her dad loved her and you know...
Yeah.
And that wasn't so much, but it's this guy...
He's mature.
Yeah, and that's what she was surrounded by, complete morons. Let's face it, I'm sorry. At the time Richard came on the scene, she was surrounded by her male friends, and they weren't where she wanted to be.
Right.
Chandler got there when he matured, through her. Because really, he really matured with Monica. He wanted to be a better person because of Monica.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to. But Richard, it just felt so awkward watching that relationship. Like, even though I know that the feelings were supposed to be there, but as a viewer, I was just like, and nothing really to do with the age. I've seen plenty of age differences, and they work out perfectly. But Tom Selleck, he was so nonchalant about the relationship itself sometimes, that when he did have those moments with Monica, it just didn't feel as genuine. That's how I felt watching it.
Okay.
So, like, it just was...
I thought they had good chemistry, but it did feel like it isn't necessarily a relationship that I would identify with or want.
It just felt off. Like, half the time when they would have discussions or talk about things, even though that Monica is a mature, there was such a generation gap at many ways. And so sometimes the relationship felt stilted a little bit.
Yes.
And anyone that's dated someone older than themselves, I've dated someone a lot older than I was, before I met my ex-husband. It just, you don't realize it until maybe after the relationship, how weird it was. Like, how the generation gap really was affecting.
The thing, too, is, the first thing I say is, okay, why is someone so much older dating someone so much younger? And especially when I see this in an older man with a younger woman, there's clearly something wrong there. Like, he is clearly, if he's not able to connect with a woman his own age and can't seem to keep that going, what the heck is going on? And why is he then preying on this younger woman who's going to be more naive and for where Monica would be, like, in her 20s.
Well, Richard was never controlling.
Right, and that's the one good thing. That's the one good thing.
I think he lost his wife, or he was divorced.
They were divorced.
So it was more of a new, fresh start for him.
Yeah.
And so if someone, especially if they either lose a wife or they divorce from a wife and they're a lot older and they date someone younger, it's mostly that fresh start, starting over. Even if they're of the age that's older, it's that kind of, this is something new, this is something different. She's different than women that I'm used to. And so when it's someone that's usually just dates only younger women, it's because they prefer younger women. I've seen guys where they they'll break up with someone that's older than what they're normally dating.
Yeah.
And then they date someone slightly younger. And that's just a complex, and they've got to deal with that themselves, obviously. No offense to anyone that is like that, top totes for you if you can get a younger girl. Awesome. Just make sure she's legal, please.
Legal and emotionally at the same place that you are and wants the same things, and that's ultimately why the relationship comes apart, because they view their future in two different ways.
He viewed it as just between them two, maybe not making that plunge and not having children. And Monica, through all seasons, wants babies.
She does.
She wants babies so bad, and it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking when her and Chandler are not compatible to have babies.
That was I thought it was one of the most brave things for the writers to do, because you had never seen anything like that on television at the time, and I find that really refreshing.
It was the only thing they took seriously.
That was probably the thing that they handled the most earnestly, and I really appreciated that, and it was absolutely heartbreaking.
Yes.
But then when they adopt the twins, which they didn't realize are going to be twins until the 9th hour.
Yeah.
Which is really sweet, but like that's rough. It's rough to contemplate that. And as a kid, like, you know, watching this, I had never thought about, couples not being able to conceive.
Well, it's really interesting and I think it's hilarious because I guess later on sitcoms played with that kind of dynamic of, like, the couple not being able to, to conceive. They adopt a child, and lo and behold, when they're not trying, guess what?
Yeah, and that does happen sometimes.
And that's why I wanted to, like, almost like, if they did 1 or 2 more episodes, wouldn't it be hilarious? The babies are, like, only a few months old, and she gets pregnant. Like, because that is a running story through romance novels, through sitcoms. The Nanny.
Yes.
The Nanny did it. Fran Drescher's character, Nanny Fine, she could not... She found out she lost her baby. She couldn't get... It was really hard for her to get pregnant because she was an older woman, even though she claimed she was 18th for, like, the bazillionth time. But she had a hard time. And then when she finally got pregnant and was able to keep the babies, and she had twins, because, that's what happens with...
I mean, twins, they're so fashionable.
Yes. Everything's about... You know what? You'd be surprised how many twins... So I teach the preschool program at Gymboree, and there's so many... I have a lot of jobs. Get over it. I'm a workaholic, by the way. I have more jobs than probably most people.
You need to leave some sort of an air of mystery.
Yeah. Well, I'll leave the other 800 jobs that I have as a mystery. So, but you'd be surprised how many mothers come in with twins. Like, I believe they, most of them just... I'm like, how many people have it running in their family? But a lot of them are older couples that I realize that have had twins. And it's because of, going through, fertility drugs and everything.
Yeah, and then that does all sorts of unique things to your body.
Yes.
And at the time, I don't know if that was really a thing back during Friends for that storyline for Monica and Chandler, like fertility drugs and stuff. Fertility is down now. So these things have become more prevalent for people trying to conceive. And
it's, but, like, that was, like, the biggest sitcom playing trope. It was, you stop trying having kids, the leading actress can have children, and all of a sudden, bam, she ends up with twins. And I'm like... And then, like, for, like, a long time there, I was reading in the romance novels, I'm like, oh, they're using that trope. Okay, so she has endometriosis. It's going to be hard for her to conceive kids. The people that have it can hardly ever...
Well, no, I mean, they have a hard enough time just living day to day as it is.
Well, I know one woman, she ended up having 3 kids. She was one of my... I taught one of her daughters. But, like, in the book... Oh, she has endometriosis, and at the time the book was written, it was a big thing that you were not able to have kids if you had that, period. that's not true. That study was not true at the time. And I think it was like in the 80s when the book was written. And then lo and behold, she told the guy she couldn't have kids, and lo and behold, she ends up with the billionaire's baby. So that's why whenever I think of Monica and Chandler, I'm like going, God, if they just went further into it, wouldn't it be hilarious if, they just stopped trying and had sex normally and fun? Say, well, since we are, not compatible, maybe we just go without, all the hormones and birth control and everything like that. And all of a sudden, bam, she's popped with a baby.
Yeah, a few terms in there that weren't supposed to be there, like birth control, but that's okay.
No, that's what I said. It's like we stop birth control. When you stop birth control, so we don't need birth control because we're both not, I'm infertile and you're not compatible with.
Well, sure, but they had already stopped because they'd been trying to conceive.
Yeah, but she can be doing it to regulate her period. She could have gone back on it.
That's true. Or to get rid of acne.
Yeah.
The original reason why birth control was invented in the first place. And guess what was a strange side effect?
Yes. Remember, ladies, the birth control part is a side effect.
Surprise!
Your drug is actually called something else. And that's why it comes with different names. Okay? So learn your...
It has all sorts of reasons why people take birth control.
Oh, and there's some birth control with very low estrogen. And guess what? That's the one that's most likely to get you into oopsiesville. Case in point, me.
That's a whole other topic.
Well, the first one
was Rachel and Ross.
Yeah.
And that was from a condom. For the small percentage of it not being effective.
Oh, and that running gag is like going, they should put it on the box! It is
on the box and on the instruction manual inside of the box.
Ross is like the poster boy of knocking women up.
For a scientist that should be reading very extensively, the fact that he didn't thoroughly read the all of the information for the box of condoms, not even a single one, really says something about his character,
To be fair, he didn't study cultural and human anthropology. He was studying dinosaurs. So, learning about the human body, he was the wrong kind of anthropologist. Learning about the human body was not his, apparently forte. He only knew how to work it. He didn't know what would happen, apparently.
Sex education fails this country every day.
And to be fair, sex education has come a long way. I mean, granted we went to Catholic school, but I did go to public school for a little bit, and even their sexual education was lacking.
It's lacking everywhere in the U.S.
Yeah. Nowadays, you're learning a lot more, especially if you go to college and you take a women's health core studies.
I highly recommend that.
You learn a lot more.
That was the first time that I saw a clit labeled on a diagram. And I was like, wait, what? Every time I've been in a biology class, I have never seen this labeled or actually displayed. And then my whole outlook on life shattered, and I reevaluated everything that I'd ever been taught. That's what college does to you.
And then women and men, depending on what kind of doctor they had, were very nervous about asking questions, especially in the 90s. Because a lot of, sexually transmitted diseases were coming out. And so if they asked anything about sex or anything to deal with sex or about protection from sex, they thought they would be judged because of it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, hang-ups. So to give Ross a little more that's credit. He was a product of his time period.
Yeah. They're all products of their time and their circumstances.
Because when he says like that, it should say it on the box. It's like going...
It does say it on the box, Ross. He just needed to read.
And I needed bigger writing.
Actually, that is a phrase he says. I mean, the print is pretty small, but they got a lot that they have to write in a little box.
I'm... Oh, Ross. Oh, Ross. It's just, again, just the 90s. What can you say? Uh... But, I gotta talk about, Central Perk. That is, like, my favorite. As a child, I always wanted to go visit that.
Oh, absolutely. Well, you can still on the Warner Brothers studio tour.
Yeah, you can visit it on studios. I wish it existed.
Oh, just as like a restaurant. They did do a pop-up for like the 25th anniversary or something.
That's not fun. Someone should just open. Someone out there, please open one.
Just something permanent. Well, it's also a rights thing. But like they should just do it.
They could get a cut of that. You know how busy that restaurant would be?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Everyone would want to be there.
Like, there's I'm trying to get tickets to this Harry Potter, like, pop-up one where it's, you get to mix your own, like, cauldron and your own drinks and everything like that. Of course, starting tickets are, like, $50.
Of course.
Yeah, right? So I was like,
But if they're going to do this, they have to have a Gunther. If they don't have a Gunther, then it's not legit.
They've got to either beg the actor and say, hey, you want a permanent job?
So the funny thing about that actor is he
yes.
was hired because he was an actual barista. And he
as most actors are.
He regularly worked as a barista outside of Friends, but at a certain point he was getting called so often to the show that finally, like, X amount of seasons in, he had to, like, leave his other job to be a regular recurring character on Friends. Because
he was always there, even when they were he was in the background.
Yeah.
Like, it's just saying, you're just there every time we're at Central Perk, you're there. You're there. And God, he had such a crush on Rachel.
Remember when he, like, adopted Rachel's hairless cat?
Yes.
Because, like, that was just how obsessed he was with her.
But he was also, like, he gave everyone a chance. Almost everyone at one point, except, I think, Ross.
Well, he hated Ross. He had it out for Ross. He
was
the one who told Rachel that Ross had an affair.
Worked at Central Perk.
Yes.
Yeah, at some point. Like, except Ross, I think there was an episode where Ross says, well, I never worked at Central Perk. I mean, yeah. We all have our places we go.
Yeah.
Denny's.
Denny's, Coco's.
And then before every dance, probably Pizza Cookery.
And Prohibition.
Prohibition, I would go maybe once in a while, but I didn't go every single time. Like, or what was that? What was that other one that is by the Sherman Oaks?
Yeah, every time I try and think of it, I can't remember the name.
I can never remember the name. Like, seriously, it's like a crappy version of Yard House. That's what I remember.
You're so cold.
Mean.
They had good appetizers, they had good burgers, they had good drinks.
And yet, obviously, it wasn't that memorable because we can't remember the freaking name.
It's been replaced by a Buffalo Wild Wings. It is what it is. But, in Los Angeles... Oh, that's the other thing, too. In such a bustling city, it's rare that, like, a small business, a small restaurant stays. So it is actually kind of impressive that the entire time... I mean, I guess the Friends also make sure that it stays in business. Oh, but in one of the flashback episodes, you find out it was originally a bar.
That's right. Yes, I remember.
Originally a bar, and like they go on like the last night that it's open. Didn't like Ross and Phoebe like try to hook up for a second, and then like everything went astray? They were like trying to bone on a pool table, and it just Ross like hits his head on like a lamp.
Well, the reason why I think Central Perk stays is New York is actually a very good place for mom and pop shops to be open. Like, they're very when you visit New York, the smaller places are what does well. Whether it's a pizza joint, whether it's a cafe. I mean, look at North Hollywood right now. They've got a lot of mom and pop shops that are open, and they do really well. Granted, they're across from the film school. It helps. If it's on Magnolia and Lake Sham, you have Republic of Pie. If you ever have a chance in LA, if you're in North
Republic
Hollywood,
of Pie is so good.
that stuff is like, that was my go-to after shows. Except I didn't have money to order anything.
That was the problem. And they have a live mic for people to perform.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like the perfect place for Phoebe to go up and sing.
She should.
Oh my gosh. We have been talking for an hour and 42 minutes.
Yay. You have probably turned us off by now.
I mean, if you're here, and welcome, and thank you.
Yeah.
We appreciate you.
And we apologize. We go off topic all the time.
But if you're here, you must be enjoying the ride, so, awesome.
That got dirty really fast.
You're the one that went there. I was...
Andrea's the only sober person right now.
Apparently.
Just saying. She's the only one not drinking with me.
I say a lot of things that get interpreted in another way pretty easily, and sometimes I catch it, and other times I don't.
Nope.
That was one of those times. We've gotten better over the years, but sometimes I'm just not fully aware. I talk about rides a lot because I'm a Disney theme park, or just theme parks in general, obsessed person, so,
Why did I just picture Indiana Jones? And why did I picture young Harrison Ford writing something?
Wow. My first love. Indiana Jones / Han Solo. Just my dream, man.
Man, who was my first love? Like, for film-wise. That's David Bowie. Labyrinth.
Yeah. Yep. Oh. Remember that episode where they're talking about fantasies, and Rachel goes to Ross and tries to get out of him, like, if he has any fantasies. She really has to press him, and finally he comes out and says, like, he fantasizes about Princess Leia in the slave bikini from Return of the Jedi. And finally, at the very end of the episode, Rachel comes out in the bikini, albeit she comes out with the cinnamon buns, which any proper Star Wars fan would know she was not wearing her hair in cinnamon buns during
Rachel wouldn't know that.
Rachel would not know that. So for me, it's a little jarring to look at. But more power to her. Score 1 for Ross. She was a good girlfriend.
Yes.
I gotta say. She really did try to please him. I mean, she would call him out if he was, like, pushing it, but...
Yeah, but she... Oh my god, that episode.
Like, ultimately, like, it's unfortunate because, yeah, Ross did not deserve Rachel. But 100%. Rachel wanted Ross.
And why?
And Ross wanted Rachel. And they went through so many people. They went through so many bad dates. They made so many other people miserable because they were hung up on each other. It was the only way for the show to end.
I just hate Ross.
It's fair. I mean...
I can't... Everyone's like, well, what about his puppy dog eyes? F that. He's a jerk off. Jerk off, Ross. And not in the good way. Just F off.
Like, this just... It speaks to how writers write their characters, and just because you want to subvert expectations and... or do something for the cheap joke or surprise people does not necessarily mean that you are doing service by your characters. The characterization comes first, and plot will support them.
Yeah.
But they have to work in harmony with each other. You cannot force it. You cannot force it to be a certain way.
And I think that's where we're going to end tonight. Yes, it is nighttime.
Da, 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 da,
Da,
da,
da, da, da, da, da.
So no one told you life was gonna be this way. Your job's a joke, you're broke, your love life's DOA.
Oh my god.
Thank you for listening to us ramble.
Stop!
But it's time for us to go and take a snuggle.
I am not snuggling with you. That's not happening.
Meow.
No. No. I get my own bed, you go to yours.
Oh, final ship of the night before we go.
Oh my god.
The duck and the chicken.
Why does Joey always have to own poultry? Joey, is there some weird fetish you're not telling us about?
Huh.
You ever thought about that?
I'm thinking about it now, and I'm thoroughly disturbed.
The guy that would, like, eat chicken in front of the chicken.
Yeah. He did feel bad about that, I remember.
Alright, on that note, this is Galaxian Night, aka Steph Sushi, and...
This is Dolip Drea, Andrea.
And you're listening to Shipped or Not to Ship Fandoms R Us. Good night.